Most famous dads drifted farther and farther from his only daughter. That silence has finally cracked open, and the truth behind their distance feels heavier than anyone expected. Suri Null, once known as Suri Cruz, grew up under a spotlight she never asked for, carrying a name the whole world recognized, even when she wished it didn't. She was born famous, raised behind closed doors, and kept away from her father by forces far too big for a young person to understand. Now, at 19, she's sending messages through her choices, not her voice. Those choices have shocked everyone who remembers the once perfect family, smiling their way down red carpets. This is the real story of a daughter who grew up watching her father from afar, and a father who slowly watched her fade out of his daily life. It all started like a movie script when Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes crossed paths back in 2005. Their connection hit the headlines before the relationship even had a chance to breathe. Katie, just 26 at the time, came in glowing from her Dawson's Creek success, a rising actress with soft charm and the energy of a dreamer. Tom, already 43 and an international icon, carried blockbuster titles like Top Gun, Jerry Maguire, and Mission Impossible on his shoulders. He was the kind of actor whose name alone could pack theaters worldwide. For Katie, it wasn't just another Hollywood crush. Years earlier, she had told 17 magazine that her dream was to marry Tom Cruise. It sounded sweet and almost youthful, nothing anyone thought would ever jump from fantasy to reality. But when Tom saw her for the first time, he reportedly told his team, "I'm going to marry her." And things started moving at lightning speed. Within weeks, what once felt impossible suddenly became real. Their chemistry was so strong, it practically ran its own show, and their romance blew up instantly. Cameras caught them holding hands in Rome, laughing together as if they were living in their own world, not caring who was watching. Even the usually private Tom Cruise became a man absolutely swept up by emotion. Then came the moment that made the whole world gasp. His appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show, where he jumped on the couch and shouted, "I'm in love." People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some thought it was sweet, others were stunned. Others thought it was strange, but nobody could ignore it. On April 18, 2006, their daughter Suri was born, a baby who instantly became the symbol of their whirlwind love story. Tom described her birth as the happiest day of my life, and kept calling her a miracle. But even that moment was shaped by the beliefs that guided his world: Scientology. Katie, who grew up as a Catholic school kid from Toledo, suddenly found herself trying to navigate an entirely different reality. Her pregnancy and Suri's birth followed Scientology traditions, including the silent birth, where nobody in the room was allowed to talk during delivery. Tom even bought his own sonogram machine so he could track the pregnancy from home. Outsiders thought this was unusual. Some even said it felt too intense. But to Tom, it was all an act of love and deep dedication. Their wedding that November looked like something out of a royal magazine, set in the 15th century Oduscoli Castle in Bracciano, Italy, with a price tag reportedly over $3 million. Katie wore Giorgio Armani, and Tom glowed with pride. Their guest list included Jennifer Lopez, Will Smith, and the Beckhams. But behind the glamorous smiles, Katie's parents were uneasy. As lifelong Catholics, they were nervous about the new world surrounding their daughter and granddaughter. And just as they feared, the fairy tale sparkle didn't last. The lifestyle around them became more controlled, more private, and heavily influenced by belief, secrecy, and power. For Tom, he believed deeply that everything he was doing was rooted in love. For Katie, it slowly started to feel like isolation. And for Suri, this became the beginning of a childhood that would never resemble anything close to ordinary. By 2007, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes seemed untouchable from the outside. They were still the faces of a Hollywood dream: red carpets, private jets, magazine covers, everything looked perfect to the world. But inside their private lives, cracks were already forming, and the world had no idea what was coming next. The outside world, they looked flawless: the superstar actor, his glowing wife, and their picture-perfect daughter. But behind that polished image, something was starting to shake, even if the cameras couldn't catch it. Friends noticed Katie rarely went anywhere alone. Anytime she stepped out, someone from Tom's close circle, often linked to Scientology, was right there, moving like quiet shadows around her. Even during simple outings, she was watched by calm, observant faces who seemed to track every tiny thing she did. One night over dinner, journalist Maureen Orth noticed an odd tension when fans approached their table. Katie smiled out of courtesy, then said something that made Orth freeze. "Oh, we don't go outside very much." It sounded casual, but to people who understood the strict systems around her, It spoke volumes. Tom, meanwhile, stayed the same intense force he had always been, confident, charming, and fiercely dedicated to his beliefs. He had become one of Scientology's strongest public figures, promoting the Celebrity Center and defending the organization anytime critics stepped forward. To him, the church wasn't just a belief system. It was structure, discipline, and purpose. But for Katie, those same walls felt like a line she could never safely cross. Her parents, Martin and Kathleen Holmes, watched from the outside with growing concern. As committed Catholics, they had always been uncomfortable with the secretive structure surrounding their daughter's new life. Over time, their visits became less frequent, unsure how to reach her through the distance forming around her. Friends said Katie started to feel distant, almost rehearsed, repeating the same lines over and over about Tom. "He's amazing. He's wonderful." It was as if she were trying to convince herself. The bright spark that once made her stand out began to fade, little by little. Meanwhile, Tom's adopted children with Nicole Kidman, Bella, and Connor were already dedicated Scientologists, deeply rooted in the faith. For Tom, it felt natural that his youngest would eventually be raised with the same beliefs. But Katie wasn't ready to give up that kind of control over her daughter's future, especially when she felt she didn't fully understand the system guiding it, so she started pulling back. Slowly, quietly, and very carefully. By 2010, rumors spread that she felt boxed in. She skipped certain church events, reconnected with old friends, and began spending more time in New York, away from Tom's routine. Behind the scenes, she wasn't drifting. She was planning, gathering information, and preparing for something she couldn't afford to mess up. By 2011, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Katie's public smiles looked tighter, her steps more guarded, and people who once saw a fairy tale now saw someone trying to hold herself together. Every time she held her daughter's hand a little tighter, she was already building her escape plan, a plan that would soon shake Hollywood and destroy the image of the perfect family everyone thought they knew. June 29, 2012, the day Hollywood froze. News broke that Katie Holmes had filed for divorce from Tom Cruise, and the timing was ruthless, just days before his 50th birthday. But this wasn't just a breakup. This was a move designed for protection, strategy, and survival. Tom later admitted he never saw it coming. "It hit me hard," he said softly. "Life can do that to you." He didn't know she had spent months preparing, moving like someone who understood she was being observed at every turn. She changed phones, hired new security, replaced staff she feared were reporting back to church handlers, and planned every move like a covert mission. Her father, Martin Holmes, a lawyer known for his sharp strategy, became her silent mastermind. He had helped write the prenup years earlier, and he now used it to carve out her exit path. Katie chose New York as her legal battleground, knowing the state's custody laws favored the parent fighting to protect their child's future. She filed everything in total secrecy while Tom was in Iceland filming Oblivion. He discovered the divorce the same way the world did, through the headlines. For a man known for keeping every part of his life under control, this was the ultimate blow. Court documents later made her motive clear: protection. That revelation would change the public's understanding of everything that had happened behind the scenes. Katie wanted full custody of her daughter, full control over schooling, medical decisions, and spiritual direction. Her fear wasn't aimed at Tom himself, but at the powerful system surrounding him. Former Scientologists later claimed Katie believed her daughter might one day be pushed toward the organization's strict CORG program, and that was a future she refused to risk. The legal battle ended almost as fast as it began. Within just 11 days, everything was finalized. Tom agreed to pay around $400,000 a year in child support until Suri reached adulthood, plus extra costs for health insurance and schooling. But money was never the real aim for Katie. What she wanted, what she needed, was separation. Legal separation, physical separation, and spiritual separation. The very next day after the settlement, she and her daughter disappeared from Los Angeles like smoke in the wind. When photographers finally tracked them down, they were walking quietly through Chelsea in New York City, hand in hand, without guards or handlers. Katie looked exhausted, but something had changed. She finally looked free. She even smiled, a real smile, the kind she hadn't shown publicly in years. For her daughter, that new life came with distance, a clean distance. The father who once carried her on red carpets and called her his miracle was suddenly gone. Not in anger, not through a fight, just gone. And in that strange silence, a new chapter began. One that neither Hollywood nor any organization could control. After the divorce, Tom's world and his daughter's world split into two completely separate lives. In 2013, he gave a rare deposition during a lawsuit, and the lawyers went straight for the tough question. Had Katie left to protect her daughter from Scientology? Tom pushed back, calling the question offensive, but then he admitted it was true, one of the closest acknowledgments he ever gave to the real divide. Reports that same year said Tom had seen his daughter only once after the divorce, a short private meeting. After that moment, there were no photos, no confirmed visits, nothing at all. In the years that followed, he threw himself deeper into his career. Mission, Impossible films, the long-awaited Top Gun sequel, world tours, and daring stunts that seemed more unbelievable every year. Fans cheered every time he jumped out of a plane or clung to the side of a speeding aircraft. But somewhere far from those bright lights, his daughter was growing up without him. Meanwhile, Katie rebuilt a steady, grounded life for her child in New York. She enrolled her in a private Manhattan school, took her to local parks, small cafes, and dance classes. Simple routines that helped her grow up like a normal kid. Friends said she was bright, warm, and surprisingly down-to-earth. For someone born into celebrity chaos, Katie kept her away from the Hollywood spotlight. No red carpets, no press, no flashing cameras. As she reached her teenage years, she grew into almost a mirror image of her mother. Same eyes, same gentle smile, and the same quiet strength. But whenever her father's name slipped into conversation, she would simply change the subject and move on. Publicly, Tom never mentioned her again. Privately, insiders said he still paid for her education and medical needs. Yet, despite over a decade passing, there were still no photos of them together. The man who could stop traffic with a single movie premiere somehow couldn't rebuild the bridge back to his youngest child. It was like two worlds had floated to opposite ends of the universe. Then came the shift, a new name and a new chapter. By 2021, she wasn't just the daughter of actors anymore. She was carving her own lane. She was attending New York's famous LaGuardia High School of Music, Art, and Performing Arts, the same school that inspired the movie fame. She sang, acted, directed short films with her classmates, and started finding her own creative voice. And then came a choice she made during her senior year musical, a choice that revealed something deeper stirring inside her. When the school program for the Addams Family musical came out, something caught everyone's attention. Her name wasn't listed as Suri Cruz, but as Suri Noel, carrying her mother's middle name. This wasn't just a stage decision. It was a statement, a shift in identity, a clean step into her own world. And when she graduated in June 2024, that same name appeared boldly on the official list. Tom wasn't there for the ceremony. He was thousands of miles away, spotted at a Taylor Swift concert in London. For longtime fans who remembered the proud father from 2006, the contrast hit hard. Katie, however, was right there in New York, sitting among the other parents, clapping and wiping her eyes while watching her daughter step into adulthood. She had guided her child without Hollywood's armor and without a father beside them, relying only on strength and love. Later that summer, Suri headed to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh to major in fashion. Katie helped her move into her dorm, carrying boxes with her own hands like any regular parent. No bodyguards, no flashing lights, just a mother and daughter trying to build a normal moment in a life that had never been normal. That fall, Katie began directing a new film called Happy Hours, reuniting with her former Dawson's Creek co-star Joshua Jackson. During filming in 2025, Suri visited the set. Now 19, she stood confidently in khaki pants, a white tank top, red sneakers, and a calm presence shaped by years of silence. Most people didn't even recognize her. She carried herself differently, like someone who had finally stepped into her own lane. Her message was loud and clear. She wasn't living as Tom Cruise's daughter anymore. She was Suri Noel, and her freedom was no longer a rumor. Then came a moment that broke hearts across social media. In October 2025, she was spotted in New York, sitting on a doorstep with her head in her hands, looking drained and deep in thought. Minutes later, Katie arrived in an Uber, sat down beside her, and gently comforted her. They talked quietly before walking off together for pastries. To random passers-by, it looked like a simple moment between a mom and her daughter. But to anyone who knew their story, it felt like a reminder of how tightly they had held on to each other since their lives changed forever. Now 19, Suri is a college sophomore studying fashion, writing her own music, and figuring out who she wants to be. Her connection with her father remains distant. He still covers her school and health expenses, but the two haven't been photographed together or spoken publicly in over a decade. Meanwhile, Tom continues hitting new heights in his career, preparing to film scenes in outer space with NASA and SpaceX. The man who conquered Hollywood now aims to break Earth's boundaries. But the distance between him and his youngest child might be the one gap he can't close. People close to the family say Katie avoids letting bitterness take over, choosing instead to focus on gratitude and growth. She calls Suri an incredible person and says her greatest pride is watching her daughter's strength and independence bloom. Yet, even with her new name and her new path, Suri still carries a story shaped by love, pressure, and the quiet reality of growing up around fame. For 19 years, the world has watched their lives unfold like a movie with missing pages. The legendary actor giving unforgettable performances, and the daughter who stepped out of his shadow with quiet resolve. And now, as Suri builds her own world, the biggest question still hangs in the air. Will she ever let her father back into her life? Or has the distance grown too wide to close? Can time fix what silence created? Or are some divides simply too deep to cross? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if you felt something real.